What's up, you guys? How are you? I trust you're doing well. I was about to say, welcome to my TED Talk, but these are not TED Talks. These are educational talks from a pharmacist's perspective. The last time I was on here, with my white coat, we were talking about vaginal health, which a good amount of people found that video or those two videos to be very helpful and informative. So I thank God for that. Today, we are actually going to be talking about the cold and flu season. Just giving some simple tips on how to essentially avoid the cold and flu, right? Because we know, or at least I know from a pharmacist's perspective, this is the time where there is a high demand for flu shots. There's a lot of Mucinex DMs going off the shelves. There's just a lot of sneezing, a lot of coughing, a lot of mask wearing, because we have entered into that season, unfortunately. So now what I'm about to mention here briefly in this video about the cold and flu season, the recommendations that I will mention in this video is not a guarantee that you will not get the cold and flu. This is just you putting proper protocols and precautions in place to reduce your risk of getting the cold and flu, okay? That is disclaimer number 2. I don't want you watching this video thinking, okay, she told me to do X, Y, and Z, and then I still got sick, right? Cover yourself with the blood of Jesus, number 1. But number 2, these again are just tips that you can implement in your day-to-day to reduce your risk of getting the cold and flu, okay? So let's get into it. Tip number 1, right? Hygiene, specifically hand hygiene. You want to make sure that you are, washing your hands frequently. And I know this sounds minuscule, but you would be surprised the amount of germs you would avoid by just simply washing your hands, especially if you are in public settings a lot with a lot of people around, or you're in healthcare settings, right? Or you're just in environments that are breeding grounds for the influenza virus to just be spreading everywhere. So you want to make sure that you are washing your hands frequently, right? And avoid touching too many surface areas, right? Where a lot of other people will be touching. I know that's hard to do, but just be mindful of where you place your hands. And obviously don't touch a surface and then immediately grab, food and put it in your mouth without even washing your hands or using some type of hand sanitizer. So it's a very simple, straightforward step, but you would be surprised. I'm telling you, just being mindful of that. Hand washing, in my personal opinion, is key. Very, very key in this season, this flu season, to minimize your risk of getting the influenza virus. So hand washing, and also lotioning after hand washing, because we don't want you walking around with ashy knuckles and stuff like that, okay? Now, tip number 2, you want to also practice good respiratory hygiene. That's just a fancy word for saying you're sneezing. If you're coughing, please cover your mouth, cover your nose, wear a mask, right? Or if you're going into an environment where there's a lot of coughing and sneezing going on, you might want to put a mask on, right? So that those air particles from the virus does not contaminate, your body, your lungs, your airways. So again, simple tips, but you would be surprised. You would be very surprised. I've seen a lot in this profession, but just if practicing simple respiratory hygiene can definitely help to minimize your risk of getting the cold and the flu. Okay. Now, tip number 3, right? Tip number 3, you want to make sure you are taking your vitamins, right? I probably should have done this as number 1. I'm not sure, but vitamins definitely are going to be your best friend. I mean, you should be taking vitamins all year round, honestly, but vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc as well. We know vitamin C is good for immune boosting. Vitamin D is good for respiratory regulation and also can help to reduce respiratory infections. Zinc can help with the immune cell function and can also help to reduce the duration and the severity of your cold symptoms, right? So instead of you being sick for maybe 7 days, you might be sick for maybe only 2 or 3, give or take, right? Again, these are can has the ability, not definite and for sure, but these vitamins are here to support your immune system as a whole, right? None of these are like a definite or for sure this or that. Like, these are there to support. So this is why it's good to incorporate it in your daily supplements, right? So that you, I guess, can, how do I say this? It's good to incorporate it in your daily because it's just good for you. Like, why aren't you taking vitamins, right? And then we have, vitamin A, elderberry, probiotics. I mean, there's a long range, a long list. If you wanted, I guess, more specifics in terms of like what exactly type of vitamin to take, you can also DM me as well. And then we can like go over the list and, select which ones would be appropriate for you. Tip number 4, I hope I'm on the right number, but tip number 4, of course, we can't talk about taking vitamins without talking about your diet, right? Nutrition. You are what you eat, guys. You are what you eat. So make sure you're incorporating a lot of fruits, lots of vegetables, incorporating whole grains, all these things, the vitamins, eating right, also staying well hydrated, right? Water is your best friend during the cold and flu season. Even when you, God forbid, if you were to come down with the cold and flu, one of the first recommendations is to stay hydrated. Stay hydrated as much as possible. So vitamins, nutrition, staying hydrated, drinking lots of water, making sure that you are giving your body a chance, or you're making sure that you're equipping your body essentially with everything that it needs to ensure that you don't come down with the cold and flu, right? It's kind of like it's kind of like putting your body in the offense instead of defense, right? So if you're putting your body on the offense, meaning that you are doing the necessary, right? You're eating right, you're staying hydrated, you're even working out, taking your vitamins, you are wearing your mask if you have to, especially if you're in the healthcare field. You're just doing all the necessary steps, right? And then pleading the blood of Jesus, right? I would recommend that first. Pleading the blood of Jesus, that's first. After that, you'll be prepared and ready for success in this cold and flu season. Now, my last tip number 5, I believe, this is where the pharmacist does come in to counsel patients, right? Because some patients, for example, those who have high blood pressure, right? If you didn't know, when it's the colder season, your blood vessels tend to constrict, which has the possibility to increase your blood pressure. So now you want to, I guess, have more conversations with your primary care doctor or even a pharmacist to talk about some of the precautions that patient who has high blood pressure would need to take during this season, during this time, so that they're not putting themselves in harm's way. So tip number 5 is not really a tip, but it's more like a recommendation because for patients who have specific disease states and need to be managed according to the disease state that they have, right? I'm talking about asthmatics. I'm talking about those who are diabetic. I'm talking about those who have allergies. Like, depending on whatever is going on with the patient will dictate or determine how treatment would go in terms of keeping them healthy during the cold and flu season. So that is all I have for you guys. Again, if you have any specific questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to send me a message. But I hope these simple tips will help you during the cold and flu season that we are currently in. And yeah, I pray though, however, that none of you, especially those who are watching this video, none of you would get sick, none of you would come down with the influenza virus, and we would all be thriving and glowing as we're drinking our water throughout this season.